Hey everyone, my name is Armando Gabian, and today I'm going to be presenting my ethnic studies capstone project. As you know, we're all assigned this a bit ago, and we were given two different prompts. I chose to do prompt A, and that meant attending two cultural events that connect to the experiences of the ethnic groups that we kind of choose in the US. And for this, I decided, since I'm already Persian, I chose to do the Eid Nowruz uh, fest celebration, which already happened a little bit ago. It only happens once a year, but typically that happens in either Saratoga Park, Cox Park on Saratoga on the Avenue over there, and also in Visona in Los Gatos, if you guys know where that is. There's different celebrations, different ways to do it, but my family and I typically go to Visona. It's a big crowd, and yeah, that was really great. I had a good time. I'll talk more about that later. And I also chose Dia de los Muertos, and a lot of my friends come from Latinx descent, and I actually went this year totally on a separate thing that wasn't this assignment. I wanted to go check it out. I've always been a fan of the way they treat their culture with so much respect and activism that I wanted to see like why they're so proud and how they actually do it. So I went to the Dia de los Muertos celebration in downtown this year with my friend Chris, and we had a good time. And this is going to be the cultural importance of annual events, and I chose the display of Nowruz and Dia de los Muertos by Armando Gabian, and this is being filmed on December 6th, 2025. So, here's my introduction. Basically, the whole purpose of this project is to kind of take what we've learned in this class and everything as a whole for this semester and apply it to real world cultural practices. And in ethnic studies, we actually talk a lot about identity, colonization, pretty much just all the things you would expect us to talk about, such as like resilience, experience, community. And attending the celebrations actually gave me a chance, when I looked back to it, of course, to actually see how those concepts in action were being played rather than just learning about them in a reading or in a movie, you know? And my objective going in this was actually to observe how the communities use these celebrations to connect their histories and kind of navigate life in the US. As also just foreign immigrants, first generation, I wanted to see every side of it. I also want to understand how these events respect the historical trauma, the discrimination, and the pressure to conform mainstream culture. And something I've really noticed while working on this project is that cultural celebrations aren't just traditions, but they're ways of keeping culture alive. Like, if we never, coming from this Persian descent, I've grown up with my whole life. If we never did Eid al-Nowruz, we would never want to celebrate it if we didn't celebrate as kids. And now that I'm older, I come to appreciate everything it comes with, such as seeing my family jumping over the fire, setting up we call it the half sheen table. It's really cool. It's like a little goldfish, a bunch of some eggs in there. It's kind of weird, but it's our culture. We love it. And it's great. And going back to it, I mean, you bring people together and you remind them of their roots, and it creates a space where basically the heritage is centered and respected. That's something you not only understand, like seeing it, but when it happens in front of you, you really get a different perspective on everything. So kicking off into it, the first background slide I chose to do was on New Year's. Basically Persian New Year's in Farsi, this directly translates to Eid Nowruz and Mubarak. We say Mubarak just because it's like, Happy New Year. That's Eid Nowruz Mubarak, but it's mostly AD. I'm gonna refer to it as AD going forward because that's kind of how us Persians do it. So, Nowruz is incredibly odd. So, there's no clear-cut way I can describe this besides going back to the origins. And so it's incredibly old, first of all. 3,000 years to be exact. And it's tied to the whole quote-unquote spring equinox. Basically, it's celebrated by Iranians, Persians, Afghans, and Kurds, and lots of other groups. A lot Middle Eastern. Like, I don't think there's a lot of American groups that celebrate it. But even though people think of it as just an Iranian holiday, it's more of just a way to widespread our culture and how we celebrate things. What I really found interesting is how important Nowruz is for the diaspora communities in the US. A lot of Persian families that came from Iran to the US because of the political upheaval war or the Iranian Revolution, my dad included. Um, basically my dad included. We had this presentation, sorry. Um, my mother and my father both came from Iran during the revolution, and as they said, many left behind family, homes, traditions, and they celebrated Nowruz as a way to sort of hold on to like something familiar from when they used to live at home. Because it's more so celebrated in the US than in Iran. I think that in Iran they still obviously do it, but in here it's more of a real like thing. To them, it's like kind of just a celebration. And it's a way of kind of holding on to something that grounded them as kids. And in the US, Middle Eastern communities kind of face stereotypes and assumptions because of politics and just media overall. Celebrating Nowruz is a way to show a different side of identity, one centered around beauty, renewal, family, poetry, food, community, and just culture in general. And Nowruz is about cleansing yourself emotionally and spiritually, pretty much like starting fresh and like entering a new year with nothing but positivity and high hopes for what you want to do. Um, to be honest, in my opinion, it really shows how celebrations can bring comfort, especially for people who miss home or like miss their own country or they grew up. And it does help us cope sort of with the difficulty we've had in our history. And it's pretty complicated, but we love it. Like Nowruz is growing up as a Persian. I can't talk enough about how much I'm grateful for this holiday. My next background slide is going to be about the Dia de los Muertos celebration. So basically, kind of a little context. I found out about this pre-COVID, so 2019. I first heard about it, and I was shocked. Like, I want to learn all about it, and when it happened, I actually have been wanting to go to celebration for so long, and I'm very happy I went this year because I'm glad this project can kind of like mix in with it. So, um. With all that said, I'm gonna get right into it. Dia de los Muertos has a really deep root. So basically, it goes like 1,000 years back into indigenous groups in Mexico, specifically Nahua and Mexica. Their beliefs around death were something very different of the kind of Western idea we have of death being like scary and tragic. Oh, they're gone forever. Like they saw it as sort of a natural cycle, something to honor, embrace, sort of like honor the people who gave everything to bring you here. And when the Spaniards con sorry, when the Spaniards colonized Mexico, they tried to erase indigenous traditions, but people blended their practices with the Catholic ones. That's why Dia de los Muertos looks the way it does today. It's this mix of indigenous and Spanish influences, but also just a mix of the strong foundation of indigenous culture that stays strong to this day and probably the rest of as long as we'll know. And in the US, the celebration is really meaningful because Mexican and Latinx communities are often stereotyped and forced into narratives that we personally think is wrong. Like a lot of the US citizens think it's wrong, but I think it's just something the government does or something that just put on them just because of the way they look, but that's something for something else. But I think this is amazing because it kind of like publicly becomes a way to push back and say, this is our identity and our history, and we're super proud of it. And if you don't like it, pretty much like you don't need to be part of it. And the great thing is the community is so big that it's great. It's so unionizing, and I love that it's deeply tied to family. It's kind of a moment to honor the loved ones who passed on, not through sadness, but like storytelling, art, music, food, and just keeping their memory alive overall. It's honestly a beautiful escape of cultural survival. So this is just totally, I want to just add this in because I fell in love with this project and so basically both these holidays kind of resonate with me because I'm Iranian and my parents were both immigrants and I have a lot of deceased family members and we celebrate Eid al-Nowruz every year as a big family in Basona. It's really cool because all my Persian friends kind of come to the park too I say hi to them, then I say see my family. We have a great time. It's kind of like we're a big family. I love it. And I was interested in the movie Dia de los Muertos, or the movie Coco, and I became interested in Dia de los Muertos. It resonates with me because I love the idea of just celebrating people who are very dear to me. And I do love my family, and anything with them is like truly a blessing in my brain. And on the right, I just put a couple photos in, like this down here is the ofrenda they used to kind of honor the people that passed away. It's very amazing, very unionizing the way they kind of like bring everyone together by saying, "Oh, this is my grandpa. He did all he could to bring us here, and this is my grandma who financially supported and all these great things." This half scene, it's more of kind of a thing in our culture of we gotta make things look good, we gotta make things look nice, and we gotta preserve our life. So we chose a lot of very bright colors and a lot of life. So these little plants that are sprouting up, the fish in the back, I think it's great. And a couple photos on the right, these is me when I was a kid. Um, on the left, it's gonna be me and my uncle who passed away due to pancreatic cancer. I love to remember him and all his stories. He was a great guy. So I just think that like it's really cool how there's holidays that celebrate in a in a good way. And on the right's my mom. She passed away unfortunately like 2 years back, and um it is hard, but I mean I'm very happy that there's these different holidays that can really show why these people are important to us, and they would both tear it up at the Ada Nowruz parties every year. It was super cool. It would be like the life of the party. I loved it. Okay. Anyways, moving on. So my big observation, I guess, for the Ada Nowruz is this half scene table, quote unquote, that I showed last slide. Everything on it symbolized something positive, like rebirth, wealth, health, patience, new beginnings, even the kind of wisdom from like the fish being older. It was cool to see how much of each meaning, like each individual object carried. And there's lots of food, live music, people taking photos, and poetry readings. Like Persian culture places a lot of value on poetry and art. So seeing that woven into the event is just beautiful to me. And something that really stuck out to me was how people talked about family overseas, or the challenges of being Middle Eastern in the US. You could just feel the pride and the longing about like why they feel that way and how they can sort of get a sense of joy at this function. Kind of like a big party with a bunch of Persians who want to spend time with each other. But at the same time, there's also so much unity and joy I love about it. And it reminded me of celebrations that can keep people feel connected to their homes even when they're not at their homes. And moving on to my next one. My observations with Dia de los Muertos. Basically, when I went to the event, the ofrendas were honestly the most powerful part because I wasn't really too knowledgeable on it, but each different altar felt like I could step onto someone's personal story. You could see photos of their loved ones, the food they could enjoy, the candles, the flowers, even the personal objects that meant something to them. Like it could have been like a little guitar or a little like skull mask or a little like harmonica. I saw a harmonica. It was really cool. Like, and honestly, it was cool. Like, I saw the person almost. It was amazing. And there's music playing, people dancing, families walking around together, kids were asking questions, older adults were sharing memories about them. It felt like just a big classroom, like show and tell about how these people were really cool and how they played a big part in the other people's lives. And what surprised me was how joyful the atmosphere was. I mean, it was like crazy to me because I'm used to death being kind of grimful and like just a lot of somber. And it was pretty joyful. I mean, even though it deals with death, it didn't feel like a funeral. It felt like a celebration of life more so, like a culture and connection, which is all there. And the joy itself is a form of resistance, like a refusal to let colonization or assimilation erase cultural meaning. And that really hit home with me, and I'm very happy about it. Moving on. So, to our cultural heritage and identity. So, with Dia de los Muertos, and Eden Oruz, they kind of like resonate a lot with me. when I compare the two big celebrations, a big theme of how they were both to protect the identity of their own cultures really stood out to me. So, starting off, for Dia de los Muertos, the celebration rooted in just indigenous traditions that survived in colonization. And the fact that people still build altars, a friend does, basically, to tell stories and honor ancestors, just a form of cultural survival. And for Nowruz, the celebration helps Persian Americans hold on to like cultural identity that otherwise kind of gets overshadowed by political stereotypes or media misinterpretation. And it's a chance to both define themselves in their own terms. And I gotta say, both celebrations kind of say, I'm gonna sound pretty hopeful in this phrase, but this is who we are, and we're not gonna let our culture fade, no matter what history has tried to do. And I think that really hit home with me. And moving on, historical impact, historical experiences and intergenerational impact. So, both communities carry really heavy histories. Like, this goes back so long ago. And for Mexican and Latinx communities, colonization tried to erase indigenous culture. Celebrating Dia de los Muertos today is a reminder that those cultures survived despite everything they were thrown at them. It was just resilience. It was amazing. And for Persian Americans, migration often came from painful or complicated circumstances, such as war, political conflict, or fear. And Nowruz kind of helps the younger generations understand what their family went through and what ancestors went through. And really, really empowering again to me because I was able to see it firsthand. Like, I heard so much about my different great aunts and great uncles and my grandpa on my dad's side as well. And it was just awesome that I was able to like learn about all this and sort of like use their power to have a new beginning come up. And seeing that in Dia de los Muertos, that's kind of like what they do. And there's just an impact. Like, it's going to be there forever and it's amazing and I love it. And in both events when I went, I saw grandparents, parents, and kids participating together. That's how an dish generational knowledge just gets passed on. It's through rituals, stories, and shared traditions. It's honestly just a different way of teaching history, but like nothing boring. And leading on to our theme right here. So I wanted to sort of highlight the systemic inequality theme. This is where ethnic studies really comes in. So I want to talk about this in a sense, in a different lens, first of all. So I want to talk about this in a completely safe space, and I'm going to start. Latinx communities in the US deal with stereotypes, discrimination, and pressure to assimilate. Celebrating Dia de los Muertos in a public space challenges that because it brings visibility to their culture in a positive and powerful way. Persian and Middle Eastern communities deal with stereotypes too, such as Islamophobia, political assumptions, and just racial profiling. Like, we're just called slurs just because we look different, honestly. But I think same for Latinx communities as well. And Nowruz gives the community a way to show another side of their identity, not only one affected by politics, but by joy, connection, and tradition. And I love that both these celebrations kind of push back into the dominant narratives that overshadow or oversimplify these communities, because it's just a big misinterpretation until you actually see in person how they act and how friendly they are. And this leads me to my next course topic. I want to talk about the intersectionality of all this. So, something that basically showed was that people's experiences weren't all the same. And obviously that's a given, but some people had a different upbringing. Some people were born here, some people were born in Iran, moved to Turkey, then came here. So, kind of just switching to like our class overall, let's say, for example, gender influences who take on certain roles during the celebration. And another one I'll say, like immigration status can separate the families or make it harder for other relatives in like Iran or Mexico to join celebrations. And language can honestly affect it. Like the big language barrier between like a grandpa and a grandson, it really hurts. But I think the socioeconomic status can also affect access to in cultural spaces or items because there's a lot of tariffs going on right now. So it's kind of hard to get things and import, export. But All in all, intersectionality kind of shows us how identity is complex, and each person has their own individual experiences and traditions in their own way. But the way they celebrate it just depends on all the parts and who they are and how big they are able to resonate with their uh, celebration. Moving into our next slide, I want to talk about my reflection on this project. So, this project kind of changed my mind about the way I think about culture. Because before I kind of thought about cultural celebrations as something I had to do because it was tradition, my parents would get mad at me. But after attending these events, and since I turned 18, and since I honestly have turned 20, I've gotten a big head now. And when I say that, I mean like knowledge. So I've realized now that it's just a deeper meaning, and people celebrate this to like show who they are and remember their ancestors, and remember their history, and connect everything together. And just because something's lost doesn't mean the community can't help protect you and everything that comes with it. Because in all, the community still means family. And both events were super emotional in their own way. I mean, I could feel the pride, the love, and the history behind both of them, and it made me appreciate how culture really puts people in a strengthful position, especially when they're living in a country where their identity might be misunderstood or judged. And all in all, I kind of want to lead into our conclusion here. My biggest takeaways here would be like both celebrations preserve identity and history. They highlight resilience in the face of oppression, and cultural traditions are powerful tools for community building. So when I kind of put it all together, Dia de los Muertos and Eid show how powerful culture can kind of be keeping and communities connected. Communities stay connected through just celebrating, and everyone loves a celebration, so it's obvious. And they help people reconnect with their roots. They heal from historical trauma and maintain the pride in who they are. And they also challenge the stereotypes placed on these communities by showing how rich and meaningful the traditions are. My biggest takeaway from that culture is that a form of resilience and both celebrations are perfect examples of that. And yeah, my final thought I just want to kind of give you guys, and bear with me, it's a fun one, but I really think it has a lot of power when I say it. Culture isn't just something people celebrate, it's something they protect. And when I say that, my definition of it is kind of just cultural identity is one thing, but when you want to keep something, obviously you're going to work hard at it. And with culture, it's the same thing. You have to work hard at keeping what you love and like keeping this amazing part of what our ancestors and everyone sacrificed with you. And it's a beautiful thing. And if you guys have any questions, I'd love to hear them down below on the replies, and I'd love to reply to them. And so I want to say thanks for listening. I really appreciate you guys listening to my time, even the extra slide I added in. If anyone has any questions about more of the events, I'm happy to go into it on the comments below. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you listening. Thank you.